Information is power.
Tell the truth.
Information is power. Information is power. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel. Information is power. Information is power. Tell the truth. Information is power.
All right, everybody, this is the Information Man. Thank you for being here. For those of you that will be coming in to the program, definitely appreciate it. All right, everybody. All right. Now, I know people are going to be coming in one step at a time. The video will get more views after the fact, but this is a very important interview, a very important video, because I have a very dynamic young lady, Olivia Robinson, on with me. I'm going to bring her in very soon. She is extraordinary. She's a graduate of the University of Pepperdine. This sister is a writer and author. I'm going to have her go deeper into her background. She was recently seen at the University of Pepperdine on a TED Talks. And she had a lot of powerful things to say in her TED Talks. I'm going to give you a small example of that TED Talks. I got a small clip from her speaking at her university. Sister is powerful. Now, most importantly, this is a sister who says that she's seeking the liberation of Black economics, the liberation for Black people in particular. And that has inspired her to create an app called BlackDollar's app. Now, let me repeat that again.
Tell the truth.
BlackDollar's app. If now this is on your Apple phone, your Android, everything. If you do not have this app on your phone, you're missing out. It gives you the ability to be able to identify Black businesses in your community wherever you are efficiently, directly. And I think that what she's created is very powerful because she is definitely motivated in an empowerment of liberating our people economically. Black wealth, Black businesses, we must support each other. I am because we are, and we are because I am. We must work as a village with each other. A lot of times we hear people say, especially on the YouTube streets here, why we don't have this? We don't have this. We don't. Well, the sister has created an app that brings it all together so that you can identify those Black businesses. The Black dollar needs to circulate. The Black dollar needs to be supported within the Black community, meaning we should be doing cooperative economics with one another consistently. And so I'm going to bring her on because she's an example of what I be saying on YouTube all the time, that it is the young, it is the next generation, it is the generation after us. I'm a Gen Xer. They're the ones that are going to take us really to where we need to go. And this sister is a complete example that we are in good hands with that generation that is probably more innovative than we are. They're more connected with the technology than many of us are, and they're taking it and taking it. Just like the brothers and sisters that are involved in Afro Tech in Oakland, California. They're doing things. We should not minimize the importance of young people coming out of college, young Black people, entrepreneurs as herself. So with that said, I'm going to bring Olivia Robinson on. But before I do, I want to give you a little taste of what she said at TED Talks. It's only like a 34 snippet before I bring her on, just to give you a little taste of how dynamic this sister is. I'm going to be periodically shouting people out that are familiar with my show as we go on throughout the course of the interview. But let me give you a little taste of how dynamic she is right now. Peace to you all.
To face unless you absolutely love what you're fighting for. Love is what drives the commitment. And what would be the purpose of committing to your cause if love is not present? But beyond this, to love your cause is a direct act of resistance because the goal of your enemy is to prove that your cause is not worthy. To continue to love your cause, even as your oppressor attempts to demonstrate that your cause is not worthy of attention, of time, of effort, is to contradict the narrative that your oppressor has internalized.
All right, there you have it. Let me bring her on right now with a roaring clap. And here we have Olivia Robinson. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes. Let me bring her on right now, and bam, pop. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Olivia Robinson.
Hey, what's up? What's good? How are y'all doing?
Everybody's doing good. Hey, look. I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad that when I was on HAPS that I discovered you on the Revolution Machine on his show, and that he was willing to allow me to come on upstairs and talk to you all for a minute. And so I recognize talent. I recognize the power of your convictions and what you're trying to do, my sister. And so I said, I got to get her on the show. People need to hear this on my show that follow me, people that throughout social media. And I already know you're a star because you've been on podcasts and you've been interviewed by people. So we know that you're destined for not great things. You are great now. But
thank you.
Thank you for coming over. What I want to do, I've got notes and all of that, but I want to be organic here. Just give everybody a brief, to the point summary of who you are, your background. I know you live in Palmdale. You're from Palmdale, California, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
I want to know what got you to the University of Pepperdine. I'm in California too. So that's an excellent university, beautiful campus. I want to know the origins of what got you here, because we know that family is the basis of everything that drives us. So go right ahead. Let's hear the beginning origins of your story as we go until I have more questions for you. So go right ahead.
Of course. Yeah, my name is Olivia Victoria Robinson. Grew up in Palmdale and currently live in Austin, Texas. Um, and what got me to Pepperdine is really an interesting question because I think if you look at what the process between applying and deciding to go there, I would say it was a lot of prayer and direction and discretion. But when you get into the background of what prepared me to thrive there was really my upbringing. Starting out in a really diverse environment like East
Mm-hmm.
Palmdale and moving to during the end of high school to a very homogenous area of Texas. Um, you kind of have a little bit of a culture shock. I think
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, I had not realized, growing up in a diverse city within Los Angeles County, that I was a minoritized person.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in an environment where I'm newly exposed to um, a different worldview. Not that I hadn't been around white people before, they everywhere, but in a white dominated area was very different. But I feel by the time I got there, I'd already been exposed to so much writing and so much critical theory that I had an idea of the environment I was getting into there. And
Mm-hmm.
my experiences and things I read really prepared me to just give an application that said why I needed to be at that university.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to get into the specifics of what that entailed and what my background was like, growing up in the household I did, there was a lot of learning that did not revolve around the classroom. Our education started within the home in regard to what we would read and what we would talk about. So, often reading things by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and not just getting the watered down version that you would get in school that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't speak to his true radical nature.
That's right. Now you're talking. Now you're talking. Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. Learning from writers and thinkers like Alex Haley and James Baldwin, and more recently, Bell Hooks. I feel as though that kind of set the stage for things that I would talk about, things I was interested in getting into,
Mm-hmm.
and basically led me to be prepared for the environment I would enter into at Pepperdine University, a predominantly white institution. And so I got there and I did some stuff. I did some some interesting things in how I approached what Pepperdine was when I got there, and looking at how it is now that I'm no longer there. I wouldn't say I completely transformed the place at all. I'm not going to take credit for that, but I would say I did um, what I was meant to do while I was there.
Wow. 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 Let me ask you another question here because this is very important as I flip this over here. Um, Writing, speaking, and activism, and your passion being business. Where does the writing background come from? I mean, the speaking, you're very well spoken,
Thank
but
you.
where did all this start? I mean, you think about it like this: you're a little kid, you grow up, you're experiencing different things in your environment, like you're saying, the way you grew up. But
Hmm.
can you name a specific situation in your background that sparked your voice? Obviously, you have a voice that had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, I think um, just being raised in a household where this was something where my parents were always critical thinkers and could discuss things very transparently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Starting back in first grade, before, like, even on school breaks, before I could move on to doing anything that I wanted to do, I had to write to start the day. Um, like, that was just a daily requirement to write something, whether it was a poem, whether it was an essay, a think piece, I had to write. Um, and I think considering that component, I feel as though my skills were really developed from an early age, but I never wanted to write just to write. I always wanted to have something of substance to say.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that substance came from what I was exposed to early on with conversations my parents would have, being that they married in the 80s. They're an interracial couple that married in the 80s. And they had to change their wedding date because they were threatened with a bombing of their wedding. They were getting married in Alabama, by the way. And so that foreground, that foundation was very much discussed constantly within our household, and several things surrounding it. And so with discussions on race and ethnicity and privilege throughout my childhood, that was something I was writing about early on. And I had to read about it early on as well so I could be conversant on the topic. And so with that, I feel as though, um, I didn't just start one day like, hey, I want to write about this. I'm interested in it. It was always part of the process and part of the background of what was creating me to be Olivia Robinson.
Okay. In terms of the university that you attended, what made you choose? I mean, obviously we choose schools that fit maybe what we're majoring in, because you, if I'm not mistaken, you graduated with a degree in integrated marketing and communications. I don't want to presume that I know what that is exactly. I have an idea, but let's explain to everybody your journey to going to the University of Pepperdine and deciding to go into that particular major, and what exactly is integrated marketing communication exactly, because I know there's different styles, different things. Cool. So let's get a little taste of that.
Definitely. So I ended up choosing the university because, based on the schools I got into, I did not want to be in Texas any longer.
Okay.
I was ready to get back to California. And I just did not expect to be in the specific environment, especially with Pepperdine being in LA County. I kind of expected a little bit different experience, being that Los Angeles, growing up there, is so diverse. You enter this university and you're like, oh, this is this is a different part of LA County that doesn't get touched by a lot of culture. And so in that, I started out as a business major. And
Yes.
in that, in learning new things in there, I realized that a lot of my calling was more so communications based. I knew business is going to be something I get into along the way and I explore, but the background I needed, that I understood that I needed to accomplish all of the subsequent goals that I would pursue throughout my lifetime, required a deeper dive into communications. And so that was more so supported by my minor, which is rhetoric and leadership. But IMC, which is integrated marketing communication for short, is basically a meeting point of marketing, advertising, and public relations. So you're touching on the business aspects of communication. And so, or the communication aspects of business, I should say. And so with that, that cultivated me to not only learn with my minor the critical dialogue around
Yes.
things such as race and gender and sexuality and history and things such as that, but it also gave me the skills to combine that into a business background and also get the connections that would support that.
Okay. Let me ask you this question here. Austin, Texas, if I'm not mistaken, is it Houston or is it Austin that has become the technical? It's become the Silicon Valley of the South. Am I correct? Is it Austin or is it? I want to be correct here.
Yes, it's definitely Austin. Tech is growing out here. There's tech companies moving out here. There's startups out here in regard to tech, and it's really booming. In the few years I've lived here, even though I was in college for most of those years, there's been some changes in regard to the amount of tech companies that are available here, and I think it's definitely growing into um, being a kind of a spin-off of Silicon Valley.
Okay. Do you think living in that environment is sort of gets the creative juices going because you're in an environment where it's booming now,
Hmm.
right? We know that Silicon Valley in California has long become very saturated.
Hmm.
But let me ask this question. This is the controversial question. And I don't like putting people in boxes, but let's be honest, as a female, particularly a Black female, how do your male counterparts or people of other groups see you? Because I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of times when Black people, particularly Black women and Black men, when we go into areas that people don't always think that that's the area that we should be in, or that they've been culturally conditioned to believe, they sort of look at us with a side eye and be like, and then of course you get that, oh, you're a special type of Black person. You know what I mean? I mean, let's touch on that with the time that we have. Let me get a little taste of, let the audience hear how that you are perceived in this environment that can be very male dominant.
Yeah. In all honesty, I haven't asked anyone their opinion on what they think of me, and true to God, I could care less.
Right. Right.
Just because I'm gonna do me, and whatever conclusions they come to is on their own presumptions, but I know what I represent and who I represent and the capabilities I have. And so while this is very much a male dominated industry, at the end of the day, my focus is on the people I serve and the goals that I have to accomplish. And so I think right now we're in a space where there's a lot of availability in funding for women, and funding specifically for Black women, which is fantastic.
Right.
And I'm sure there's folks who have something to say about it, but when it comes to my ears being open to what they have to say, I have not entered the spaces to hear them say that, because my focus and my headspace is in the areas where I can serve people the best. And so I would say, especially because I didn't mean to come into tech.
Okay.
It's kind of a coincidence that I ended up in this space, just because with my idea for Black Dollar and with pursuing Black Dollar, I did not mean to be creating Black Dollar at this point in my life.
Right.
And so entering tech was not at the forefront of my mind. It was just a vehicle to get to serving in what capacity I could in regard to accomplishing economic liberation, or at least participating in the pursuit of economic liberation.
All right.
Tell the truth.
Telling the truth. Let me go ahead real quick, the time that we have, and shout out a few people people are coming in slowly, but they're coming in. We got Raw B Privilege. Thank you for being here. We've got Beverly Palma is in the house. We got my man Joe, who's on the screen here. He says, peace, brother, information man, Joe Dove. Hey, Joe, good to see you. Glad to see you here. We got my man Earl Owens, who's definitely been a supporter of the program. He says, I work at Samsung factory in Austin. Interesting. Okay. And then we got, and Earl Owens, it's good to see you here, brother. That's pretty powerful stuff. She says, yes, tell the truth. Miss Thompson's in the house. And let me do something real quick that I do on my program. Oh, we got Miss Curry. Miss B is in the house. Thank you for being here. And we got the Minister of Music. Good to see you here, my brother. But let me do something, because my man Clue just gave me a super chat, and we do something here, and we're going to do it right now, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Thank you for that super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
Time to run it all. I wake up. I wake up, flex, I'm down that check. No drip, this tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down that check. No drip, this tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it up.
All right, everybody. All right, folks, we're back. Thank you for the super chat again. I appreciate it. Everything goes back into the program. So my guest here is Olivia Robinson. She is the creator, the founder, and CEO of BlackDollar's app. Now let me get right into it. Tell us about the app. What brought you to create? Well, we know liberation of economics of Black people. We know your passion for the community. But how'd you put this together? I think I was listening to something you were saying that in the beginning, it seemed like it was going to be too much of an expensive adventure for you to go into. But how did you get it all together? and how has it been perceived so far? Give us the architecture of this app.
Definitely. And so this was about 2019. I'd had the idea for a while, but the day I just did a little bit of research into the cost of what creating an app would be, I saw the startup cost and I was like, that's not what a college student needs to be worried about right now. But the mission was still there, and it was the idea that I still wanted to pursue. And so 2020 rolled around and we had a little bit more time on our hands given the circumstances of last year. And so I, was on this, I would just call it a webinar binge. I was just watching a lot of different webinars on all sorts of different things. But I would actually preface this. Within the year, even before COVID started, I had just been educating myself more on economics, on financial practices and specific practices, and history of economics within the Black community. And so one of the webinars I had watched, given, an increase of time last year, early into quarantine, I came across a webinar that discussed app building. And there was basically a service that would create your app, you give them your ideas, and they help you figure out how to do it without coding. And it was affordable based on a college student's savings. And so I was watching it. I prayed a little bit real quick, and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. And that was the day BlackDollar started its development. And so I did a lot of brainstorming on what I wanted BlackDollar to be. And what you have now is an app that tells you where Black businesses are in proximity to you. You're able to sort by category, whether it's restaurants or beauty shops, barber shops, pet services, mental health services. There are places where you're able to um, find Black businesses, whether it's near you in person and it's a brick and mortar business, or you can go to the mobile business section, which isn't necessarily businesses that are online, even though there are some online businesses where you're able to order clothes or whatever, but it's also businesses that don't have a concrete address, or you would never need to visit their address. For example, if it's a caterer that comes to you, you just basically need their contact. So when you go on the app, you're able to find the businesses and the categories you're looking for, click on their website, find out where they are, or find out what other information you might need for them. So it's kind of like a database, or a directory list of Black-owned businesses. In developing it, we've gone city by city. And so we started out with Los Angeles and Atlanta, and now we have Houston, Austin, DC, Baltimore, New York City. We have the Bay Area. We're just adding city by city. And people have the option to let us know about their business if we haven't gotten to their city yet, or we did get to their city and we missed them. They can send us through our submission link their business details, and we'll get them on there. And it's, I want to say it's unfortunate, but it's just how things go. Like right now, the app is actually under some additional development, and so it's working a little bit differently right now. But the gist of it is there. You're able to open it up, find Black-owned businesses near you. If you're traveling to an area that you've never been to before, you can find the Black businesses in that area. Or if you want to order something from a business all the way across the country, find them on there, and you're able to find it. We also just opened, I saw someone comment just now, BlackDollar App.store. That's another facet that we've just opened up for BlackDollar LLC, which is basically a space where we're giving people the information to expand their business or financial literacy. And in that, we have affiliate courses on there, but also ebooks where people can learn simple things like how to fix your credit, how to build your savings, how to start a business, how to start a side hustle, how to advertise your business on social media. There's a lot of different things on there where people are able to tap in on a skill and get information that'll help them to further their bag. And so that's just another part of the mission that we're able to accomplish now. It's available on the app, but you can also just visit directly blackdollarapp.store and find resources that are helpful for building your bag.
Okay, everybody, what I'm doing right now, this is an example of the App Store on Android. I'm going to go through her website just to give you a little taste of a few things on her site. So bear with me. I'm going to go to the, I think it's the Apple Store one. Hopefully you all can see that on the screen. Let me scroll down a little bit. That's for Apple. So this is on all these different platforms. And definitely, if you have not downloaded the app, do it right now and take advantage of this. Let me ask you a question, because I lived in the Bay Area, San Francisco for 30 years, Oakland, California. If I heard right, I might have had a little bit of beeswax in the ear. Are you connected into the Oakland area in the Bay Area? Excellent, because we have a big Black population. It has decreased due to gentrification to 25%, but we still do have a large Black number of Black people who live in the Oakland East Bay area in Northern California, as you know. So I think that's also excellent. Let me also show them some other areas. Now you have Shop Black Dollar here. Let me scroll down. Hopefully everybody can see this. And this is just another area here where people can buy books and various materials like that. I just wanted to show that for a moment. And then I want to, let me go ahead and do this right here. Back to your, matter of fact, I like your website. I like the way it's laid out. And I have a curious question for you.
Yeah.
Is that Palmdale, California or Austin, where you're at? I love that background.
Oh, that background, that's actually at Pepperdine. That's in Malibu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's up at the top of the campus, where you're able to just look out over the ocean. You might look out on a clear day, see Catalina.
Okay, it's been a long time since I didn't recognize anything from up there where you were, but you know, it's been a minute for me. I graduated college back in the 90s, so it's been a minute for me, but I didn't recognize that. But I did say California the first time. I said,
you got that part.
So no, but it looks great. But you have here. Let me run down a few things too. You've got a background, of course, social justice, NAACP, Washington, D.C. branch. I've got family in the Maryland area. You were involved in International Catholic Migration Commission, if I'm saying that right.
Yes.
You are a part of the Black Student Association and co-founder, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. Co-founder, ladies and gentlemen, let me give a drum roll for this. Let me give a news roll for this.
Information is power.
Founder of the International Committee to the Holistic Success. You were committed to the holistic success of Black students, called is this UTU? Am I saying that right? Okay, UTU. So that was a student organization. Can you describe a little bit about your student activism? What exactly were your involvement in that? I know you were a founder, but exactly how did the organization on the campus benefit particularly Black students? I know I was involved in a lot of student activism when I went to San Francisco State University and got radicalized when I was involved in the Black Studies department with Dr. Laura Heads, over to Shaka and a lot of the folks from the university there. They radicalized me there, but go ahead and break that down for us a little bit.
Yeah, so my first year of college, 3 friends of mine and myself, we decided to start something that would be committed to the success of Black first-year students on campus. We realized that our greatest asset was each other. And we would be committed to each other's success despite what background we might have come from, what reason we might be at the university, and what goals we have for the future. And we realized that we were having such deep, rich conversations on what it means to be Black in the United States in this particular era. What is Black love? What is Black success? And we wanted to bring our class here together to discuss these things. And so that was something that initiated, and we were basically able to develop this system where people were reliant on each other. It wasn't the same as Black Student Association. It was specifically targeted at Black first year students, so we
Mm-hmm.
could create that environment that would carry us along the way. Um, a lot of successful people, a lot of the most successful people in the world come from some sort of organization that has supported their success, whether it's a Skull and Bone Society or a fraternity,
Yes,
sorority.
that's right.
Um, a lot of the success of many people can be attributed to the groups that support and cultivate them along the way. And we wanted to do this for students, and it's something that still exists at Pepperdine to this day. But in addition to that, my student activism while I was there included being the co-vice president and later the co-president of Black Student Association. Um, I co-created this other foundation called Social Action and Justice Outreach Colloquium. And so social action and justice was a series of courses students could take within the classroom. But the portion that I founded was basically so students could take those conversations and activate them for people who aren't in those classes. And they could create this rich dialogue on what are the issues we're facing in our society and how we can address them. A lot of the stuff that I did didn't necessarily have a title. It was just what needed to be done. I helped organize a sit-in for gun violence prevention. I would meet with both presidents of the university, the former president and now the new president, on just what was going on and what things needed to be addressed systemically and institutionally. Um, I just set out and did what needed to be done, whether it be counted as activism or counted as just responsibility. That's up for debate, but I just that was part of who I am. It's just finding the problems and bringing the solution.
Mm-hmm. And in 2019, you were on TED Talks at your university. Can you tell everybody out there listening and people that will be listening, because there'll be a lot more people that will be listening to this after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
on the replay. How did you get connected with TED Talks? Did someone come to you and discover you? How did that all go down? Because I had a chance to listen to your TED Talk, some of it. I made a little clip there that you noticed, and I thought it was fantastic. Which some of the things that you were talking about love and how you have to be able to love who you are and what it is that you stand for and what you're trying to do, despite the fact that your enemies may not like you.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you get connected with the TED Talks? Go right ahead, sister.
Right. So I found out that TEDx was hosting an event at Pepperdine. They had this little application that went out. Not many people were talking about it, so I was like, "Is this legit?" Um,
I hear you. I hear
so
you.
I ended up applying. I ended up applying at the very last minute. Like, sent my application in minutes before the deadline, and I didn't want to just get up there to give a talk. I didn't want to use that stage just to talk, just to hear my own voice. I wanted to say something of substance. And I wanted to say something related to one of the most important things that we experience or possibly don't experience in life, but something that needed to be said that hadn't been said about love in this particular era. And so I set out to develop an extension of what's been said before, an extension of what Dr. King and Nelson Mandela and Bell Hooks and Jesus have said before. And without mentioning any of them, just carry the conversation along that so many predecessors have started into an era that is quite often loveless. And so in discussing that, in going in to create this conversation, I wanted my talk to not just be the full embodiment of what I wanted to say, but I wanted it to be a conversation starter for other people to see how it could apply to their lives, their situations, and the circumstances of their people group. And so I created this talk. It was called Love Warriors, Arming Ourselves with Radical Love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes when people say love your enemy, they make that the starting point. And for me personally, and for a lot of people as well, loving your enemy can't be the starting point. We got to work our way to that. And so I wanted to discuss, okay, well, how do you get to that point? First, you got to start with loving yourself and loving what you represent, loving your
Right.
cause.
Most
Um,
definitely.
and that's a way to work towards getting to that point where you can love your enemy, because it's really not for them. It's not for their sake. It's for yours. And so that's basically the premise of what I went with for my TED talk, my TEDx talk. And it's opened so many doors, but I think beyond opening doors for myself, I think the impact that it's had on people has been amazing as well.
Wow. Wow. Let's give it up for her. I mean, you are doing big things. I really appreciate what you're doing. I want to give you another clap.
Thank you.
Tell the truth.
Most definitely. We've got folks in the chat room that have come through. We got my man Joe. Everybody is still there. Beverly. Peace. Hey, everybody, do me the biggest favor. You know how we do it over here. Definitely share the video in your social media. And definitely, if you are a content creator yourself, put it in the community tab as well. I've got something else to ask you. You are a woman. You are an individual, a beacon of light. I don't know what to call it, because I'm now looking at your record and I'm seeing that you do research. You are a published author in the Pepperdine Journal of Communication and Research.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know, how did you once again get yourself connected in that? And I want to know, because I don't think I know, what type of research are you dabbling in?
Right.
Curious minds
Yeah.
would like to know.
So the article that went
is
into
power.
the Pepperdine Journal of Communication Research was a piece I had written on the importance of capitalizing the B in Black, just because that's part of our identity. You know, when we
Wow.
capitalize the word I, that's because it's something that represents ourselves, and our
Wow.
Blackness is
Mhm.
representative of who we are.
That's
And
right.
so it's essential to capitalize that, for the sake of history, but also for identifying ourselves, in commanding a level of respect. And so that was the premise of what I wrote around for that particular work, which that came out almost a year ago. I think it was like April or May of last year. And I think it's amazing because the researchers that I studied on that, I don't know if you've read the 1619 Project or listened to the podcast.
Yes.
So Nicole Hannah Jones, the woman behind 1619 Project, inspired me for that. And she inspired a whole lot of other people. And in this era of more people discussing the importance of capitalizing the B in Black, or the importance of Black identity being seen and understood not from the colonizer's perspective, now in the Associated Press guidelines for writing, the B in Black is capitalized. And I'm just so grateful. I don't know if I contributed to that. I'm not going to take credit because I don't know for sure, but being part of the era that participated in that conversation that brought about such a change is an honor. In regard to what else I research, being that right now I'm not currently enrolled, my research has changed a little bit, and I'm a little more free with it now, so I'm excited about that. But last year, 2019 and 2020, I was helping some research assistants. Actually, now that I think about it, I've been researching since my first year of college.
Yeah, tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Yeah, a lot of my research had to do with Black film and film creators, and projects such as that. One thing that I was a research assistant for was a book that came out a few years ago, called Shifting the Hollywood Terrain, and it was basically about John Singleton and his work with Boys in the Hood. And that was authored by Dr. Joy Carr, and I was the research assistant for that book. And then in more recent years, one thing that I was researching was related to communication in how we raise Black sons. And so even though I'm not a mother yet, communication research behind that is extremely important. And so being able to participate with that was an incredible era for myself. And I was even able to go to the National Communication Association conference and moderate a panel of scholars, of professors from distinguished universities on their research and conversation around what it means to raise a Black son in 2020, 2021 America.
Something that I'm going to be talking about, there's a brother on YouTube that goes by the name of Black Sheep. We're going to be having a discussion about, do we actually raise our children or do we indoctrinate them? And he has a theory behind the fact that when it comes to Black children, because of the world that we live in, there are things that we're doing that's actually indoctrinating them to behave and act in a certain way. More so, are they behaving based on natural vibes, or is it because we are forcing them into a certain way of behaving and acting based on the fact that all of us, we have been culturally conditioned. And then what we do is we pass it on to our kids sometimes based on what our experiences are. These are running theories or arguments that the brother has that we're going to be talking about, because that's when you said that kind of caught my eye and my attention.
Definitely.
But let me ask you this question here. When it comes to, because once again, you said that your life goal is the liberation of Black people. And in definition, the definition literally is that the act of setting someone free from imprisonment is part of liberation. Slavery or oppression, the idea of releasing people from something that is tormenting them. What do you think it's going to take? I personally believe that it's going to take your generation and those after you as well to put Black people in the place that we should be. Many people like myself and people before me that may be a little bit older, we've been talking this kind of stuff for a while, but you got to put it to action. And we can do something about it now. But I still think that the future lies in the hands of people like yourself. I believe that Black people will be in a better place in the future than we are now. Although we got gentrification going on, we got some economic ills that we're still dealing with. But when I look at someone like yourself and many others like you, it lets me know that there is a future, because we have those like you that are trailblazers, trend setters. Because if you go back 400 years, our people could only imagine that we would be where we are today. Even with the ills that we still have, we are actually in a better position than our ancestors were, who were hoping for this day. Same thing goes for my generation, baby boomers, and there has to be a better transition coming after us. And if we got folks like yourself doing what you're doing, I think that we're in good hands. See, the problem in our society is that we often we elevate the minimum and we minimize the maximum, and we take the minimum and we maximize that. So the worst of Black society, that's pushed out in movies, television, that's all talked about. But someone like yourself, that gets minimized in the larger society in terms of what people see of our people and what we're really doing behind the scenes that does not always get promoted as it should. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things within that I could touch on. I think one thing in particular right now is, for myself, whether it's whether I personally am minimized or maximized, it's more so about my work.
Okay.
It's more so about what I'm contributing to. And so, um, I think this isn't the type of story that necessarily sells. Um, and I'm not saying that that's how it should be at all. But when we're looking at what entertains us,
Mm-hmm.
and what educates us, we're more so drawn to the things we're already familiar with. We're drawn to the things that keep us comfortable, and we allow people who um, people who are perpetuating the narrative oftentimes to be in control of the narrative of what's limited and what's not the full encompassing picture of who we are as a people.
Yes.
And I think in regard to activism not getting the information it deserves at all times, I think there might be a degree of safety in that personally. Just because when you look at people who have gotten the attention of being a leader and an activist, while the attention is able to unite oftentimes, it's also used to divide, but it's also deadly at times. When we look at our greatest leaders, and when we look at leaders we don't necessarily know about,
Mm-hmm.
um, that aren't off the top of our heads and aren't in our textbooks, but their work contributed to a change in society. They were a threat to the norm. Um, them being known ended up being something that led to their demise. And actually, let me rephrase that. It wasn't the fact that they were known; it was the fact that they were right and they were hated for being right.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that as much as good can be extended by someone's name and someone's work being known, it has to be done with a grain of salt and with a lot of caution, for the sake of the the mind and the body of the person being able to survive to continue their work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I think definitely this type of work deserves more attention and more support, especially from entertainment. But at the same time,
Tell the
realizing
truth.
that we don't always want the attention. We want to be able to continue our work without the spotlight at times.
Right. Right.
Um, and so it's nuanced. It goes both ways.
Hmm. Let me ask you. I know that your time with us is short. Got to bring you back because I have so much more to pick at your brain about so many issues. But let me touch on this. These are a couple of points that I want to touch on.
Hmm.
So we have economic liberation. I've heard you talk about through my research, your background, uh, talking about outreach, education, a new way that we find ourselves focusing on equality, if I'm not, as it relates to Black business. What exactly does that mean from your estimate when you talk about equity? Let me say that. That's the right word. Equity
Hmm.
is what you're talking about. Equity as it relates to Black business. Can you unpack that with us before
Oh
we
yeah,
conclude? Because I have that question and a couple questions, and then we can conclude because I know your time is short, unfortunately. But go right ahead.
definitely. There's some layers to unpack with that. First and foremost, equity when it comes to business opportunity and the information that goes into being able to create a business. Um, just having a level playing field is something that needs to be, more equitable, and that comes with equitable access to funding, equitable access to information and networks, and resources to build a business.
Okay.
I think also what goes into equity is increasing the circulation rate of the Black dollar within the Black community,
Mm-hmm.
because the circulation rate, which is basically, the amount of time a dollar circulates within a community, it relates to the amount of impact a dollar is able to have within the community. And so, um, we have to increase our circulation rate because other communities are able to have, um, more opportunity and more impact from their dollars because their circulation rate is higher. So to break that down further, which I talked about this on the other interview that you were in on the other night, which is fantastic, but I want to share it for your audience here as well. In other communities, when a dollar is spent at a business, that dollar will stay within that community for days or even weeks. But when you
Yes.
spend a dollar at a Black business, at a Black-owned business, oftentimes that dollar will only circulate within the community for an average of 6 hours. When you're comparing 6 hours to days and weeks, our dollars are having a far less significant impact on our community. So if we're
Okay.
able to increase that circulation rate, we're able to increase our opportunity, our access, and eventually our equity. We don't necessarily need to ask someone else to lift us up. We don't need to ask someone else to play this out. We're demanding it, of course, on the
Right.
other end when it comes to activism. But in the grand span of what we can contribute to is we can contribute to circulating our dollar rate within our Black community.
Okay. Well, what would you say to people that say this? There's a lot of theories around this. Some people would say that the problem with the Black community is not that we're not circulating our dollars, is that we don't hold on to our dollars properly, in terms of we don't make good financial decisions with our dollars. And on top of that, are Black people financially literate as we should be? Because we do use the term, we do talk about the circulation a lot, but the question is, are we as financially literate with our money in general as we should be? Now, I know that's a loaded question. It's a generalized, I don't want to generalize all Black people, but it's a general question for this purpose of me asking this, because you are a businesswoman. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a dichotomy to that because yes, I think, especially growing up in an environment, like if you look at the average Black household and the income they're making,
Yes.
and the habits that they have, like, yes, there could be an increase in education when it comes to education on investments and spending habits and credit. And that doesn't necessarily need to come from a classroom, but looking at our counterparts, oftentimes that information comes from a family. And if you don't have that information to start off with, you're not able to pass that information down. At the same time, I will say there is a significant understanding of financial literacy. I wouldn't say we're completely blind to it or the importance of it or the need for it, but I will say we're also looking at being a community that has a significantly lower net worth. When the average net worth of the average white household is tens of thousands of dollars more, there's more to work with. So even if you do know all the moves, even if you are financially literate, you're going to spend your money differently because you have to spend your money differently. And so I think we're looking at, yes, on one hand, we could be spreading greater financial literacy and education, which is fantastic because, it'll help people apply knowledge to the money they have. But on the other hand, if you know financial literacy, if you have the resources to understand it, but you don't have the capital to support, you know, building your own business or investing or saving the way you would want to or the way you even know to, then
Right.
I don't feel as though it's 100% fair to say we're not a financially literate community.
Right. Right. I just asked that for the discussion purpose.
Definitely, yeah.
I think there's a lot for us still to learn. Now, let me shout out someone who's very dear to me, and that's my brother George Makem. He is back in Philadelphia. He's been very well known within the Black conscious community in the New York area as well, Philadelphia. He's got an organization, nonprofit called it's a fantastic organization that this brother has put together. It's Nerd Worldwide. George Makem, drop your organizational link in the chat, my brother. Drop that in there. I need you to drop that in there immediately. Let me see something real quick, because I know that your time is short, but I want to ask you the ultimate question and that is about what we call reparations. Now, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do here, because my man George has sent me a lot of stuff in my. I need to connect him with you too. He's got a lot going on with his organization, but I want to connect you with him. So give me 1 minute right here, because there's something that he sent me. And he has an organization. It's Urban Nerds Worldwide. Urban Nerds Worldwide. And what he does is he takes kids from the community, and it's mentorship, it's education, it's celebrating kids that are interested in science. They go out on trips during the weekends, during the weeks. But it's primarily based in science, making something like science cool, not something to be ashamed of. So it's a nonprofit. You can donate to the nonprofit. I'm going to be donating to the brothers organization on quite a regular basis, and he's very positive. Now, what I want to say, because I want you to hear this, and I want my man George Makem, Urban Nerds Worldwide. George, you see how I bring this sister on this program today, and we're talking positive talk, stuff that Black folks need to listen to, and you notice how not everybody's coming over live. I could be talking about something more polarizing, as I do on my channel, and you'll get a lot of folks that come on in here. But you see, when we need to come over, I gotta say this. I gotta say this, sister. When we need to come over and listen and get information from a sister that's dynamic like this, that's talking about something that's tangible, such as Black business and supporting, you see, it's the same issue you have on your channel with the Urban Nerds. Why can't we get enough of our people to come to this? Why does it have to be a train wreck for us to get lots of our people over sometimes? It just amazes me, George. I'm talking to you, brother. I just had to say that to everybody out there that's listening. But let me put this back on. Well, because I know when I do my shows, I know that sometimes on YouTube, we don't like to watch the stuff that's educational, that we need to look at, but we like the train wrecks. We like the doxing. We like all that other nonsense that goes on. It's very frustrating at times when you see that. But let me put this on the screen. So as you can see on the screen, that is reparations, which is a debt that this country owes us. So I put down there, America has a debt to pay.
That's right.
And I know people have a lot of debates about this. Everybody's got their philosophical differences about it. Well, if you give Black people a lot of money checks, well, they're going to just spin it up. Well, if you this, everybody's pocket watching and worrying about what people are going to do with money when we're a long ways from even getting a check in the mailbox. But do we deserve it? Yes, our ancestors fought in every war this country has ever had. We've been persecuted. Man, other groups have been given reparations. You're seeing right now, and this is no disparagement towards the Asian population, but we're seeing right now that the government is prepared to sign a bill that will directly benefit the Asian community, because the Asian community is being attacked right now in this country. However, we know that Black people have been attacked since day one, we put Joe Biden in office, 93% Black women, 86% Black men voted for him. And they sort of give us, in my opinion, a lot of trickle down stuff for the Black people, but nothing really direct. Even in his executive orders, nothing really direct, just trickle downs type of stuff. And yes, Asian people are being attacked, but they're also saying, well, is this a phenomena of, is it Black people that are attacking them? And I say that I just feel like sometimes when we are talking about the issues that we struggle with, it's sort of like pandered to. But I notice other groups, they get it directly catered all the way to them when they say, help us. I find it interesting. But not to disparage the fact that Asians have been getting attacked in this country. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think in regard to reparations, if you have people who are still benefiting from the hundreds of years of labor that Black people did,
Yes.
which people very much are, there's a debt that needs
That's
to be
right.
paid.
Right.
But also, if you have the systems in place that still allow a certain demographic to be elevated and another demographic to be held down, you not only have an issue, but you have years to make up for the years that that system was in place. And I think when it comes to the rebuttal that if you give people this much money, then they're going to spend it any type of way. Let them spend it any type of way. You know, like I think the issue of control is so interesting, just because it comes from a place of wanting to maintain dominance and wanting to maintain a level of control of what Black people do. And if you're going to try to say what people can and cannot do with their money, it's like it's like wanting to control their liberation, which isn't liberation at all.
Right.
And you see that how that's done now in regard to people who are able to receive unemployment or receive what is it, WIC, this attempt to control what people are able to spend their money on. But let's say that is someone's argument. Let's say, okay, like they're worried about how Black people will spend their funding. When you look at the Reconstruction era, the era right after the Civil War, you see a boom in Black success. Why? Because the people who were able to receive the limited amount of assistance, the very finite amount of assistance that went out, they maximized that to its fullest potential. You had
Right.
people becoming business owners. You had Black people becoming senators and representatives early on, immediately after Reconstruction. And you see that when you give Black people liberation, we do something smart with it. We do amazing things with it. And so I think people might be actually scared of what we might do next. As well, they should be. Not that we would do anything vile or violent, but we would rise to our greatest vibration of excellence, of prosperity. And that would be an absolute depletion of the power and control that the current dominant group has. And
Right.
so reparations, it not only needs to happen, but if it were to happen, it would be a great transformation for where we're at now, because nothing monetarily could ever, repay the blood and the torment and the post-traumatic slave syndrome. I don't know if you've read books on that, but I would definitely recommend to everyone in the audience to read books on post-traumatic slave syndrome. But when you look at the amount of torture and torment and generational trauma that resulted from slavery, no monetary amount will ever make up for that. However, when you look at the current circumstances that we're still living under, the least we could get is a check.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Hang on for a minute. I'm having a little technical problem here. Let me ask you another question here. Oh, this is very important before we end today. Given all the things that you've done, all your accomplishments, I mean, your education. Now, I think I heard you say something about getting a master's degree. Have you achieved that, or is that something that you're still pursuing, or have you already achieved that, or are you in the midst of that right now? And excuse me if you might have told me that already.
Not just yet. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I was taking a gap year and planning to start my master's degree this year. However, schools are broke right now. And I refuse to pay for another degree. I'm sorry. I'm going to get my education, whether it's through an institution or not. And as much as I would love for it to be from an outstanding university, and I've applied and I've gotten into places, but haven't gotten that scholarship package I want. And I know what I bring to the table, and I know what I'm going to do with what I get with my degree. And so somebody else needs to pay for it, not me.
Oh, okay. I hear you. how do you, with all that you have accomplished, how do you keep yourself from getting a inflated ego or a super ego, or filling yourself, as they would say in my upbringing? You're filling yourself a little bit now.
Mhm.
I mean, it does. I'm not saying that you shouldn't pop your collar, as they would say, or wear
Yeah.
your red bottoms, whatever.
Mhm.
If you are having a level of success, there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you stay grounded and not let your success inflate your head to the point that you lose the very common touch that you say that you're trying to connect to? Now, I don't know if that's a loaded question I'm asking you, but to me, it happens to people where they get a little bit past, they go beyond, they lose their touch of what their objectives really were. The
Mhm.
more, sometimes, not all people, sometimes when they get very successful and everybody's checking for them now, and then they begin to, their head gets inflated a little bit. How
Mhm.
do you stay grounded?
Yeah. I would say if you're still living, breathing, and moving, there's still work to be done. If you're still living, breathing, and moving, that means you haven't done all that you need to do yet. And so, in remembering that, I think as much as I've already done, there's still more that needs to be done. And so, don't get too big headed just yet, because you don't know what else is in store. But also remembering, as much as I would like to take credit for the effort and work I put into my stuff and into my work, I know that there are people who are working harder than me. There are people who are working smarter than me. But even at the end of the day, at working my hardest and giving my best, this is still an attribution to what God has done for me. It's not of my own handiwork, but it's of God. And so in remembering that, I realized that this could all be gone instantly like that. And what I do and what I create and what I embody is a result of the grace I've been given. It's not a result of the accomplishments or the studying I've done. Um, it's a gift I have no control over, or
Mhm.
say in how long it lasts.
Right. Right. Let me go ahead and do something, because a few people super chatted me, and I'm going to name them out. I think Adula has super chatted me, and Omega Games is in the house. I think we got 3,000 in the house. Let me see. My man Kendrick, who follows me, he says, "Information man, keep up the good work for the knowledge in the community. I know I'm going to get on you nerves a lot. Is the best. If Let me see, if keeps besides you for real here, keep giving credit to those who are doing the actual work here. You're absolutely right, brother. We will continue to do so. 3,000's in the house. Degrees, thank you for being here. And somebody else super chatted me, and I think that was let's see, that was Sniggleless 688 super chatted. Omega, that's right, Omega Dreads Gaming Channel is in the house. I just want to give some acknowledgement to people who came in, people that super chatted me. All right. We got Swervis $20 super chat. Hey, if I'm saying your name not correct, I apologize for that. I'm bad. Y'all know I'm bad with names, but I appreciate you coming. I appreciate the super chat, and I will give you a super chat celebration. And then our doula, and then we got Alan Christina $5. I'm always here, information man. Thank you so much for your show and sharing. Hey, I thank you. Hey, I know the regulars. There's people who consistently come over here, depending on what I'm talking about. And our doula, thank you. He says, "Salute, information man, best pro-black channel out there." I never even define myself as pro-black. I just do what I do. I don't get caught up in labels, but I appreciate that. I appreciate all the brothers out there in the manosphere as well, everybody within the YouTube streets. This is what we're going to do, because there's so much more that I want to talk to you about. And I'm going to also get you on my traditional podcast as well and do a show with you on there too at some point in time when you have the time.
For sure.
I don't want to take up any more of your time, because I know you told me that you had some time to come on. I want to be respectful of that. But considering that I've got a whole bunch more questions to ask you to unpack to get your perspective, I've got to have you come back at some time when you have the time. And I hope you'll be willing to do that, because
Absolutely, yeah.
there is too many other things that I wanted to get into with you today. that I just hadn't gotten to yet, but I want to get into. Let's do this before you leave. Let's remind everybody from your perspective about your app, where they can get it, how they can download it to their phones, what platforms it's on. You said it's going through a few changes right now that you want people to be aware of. So right now, take the time to just let everybody pretty much know exactly who you are as the founder and CEO of BlackDollar's app before we conclude.
Definitely. And thank you so much for inviting me here in the first place. I really appreciate that. And I'd love to come back and answer more of your questions. My name is Olivia Victoria Robinson, founder and CEO of BlackDollar. BlackDollar is an app that you can get on the Android Google Play Store or on the Apple App Store. And it helps you find Black-owned businesses. You can find these Black-owned businesses near you in person, physical brick and mortar businesses. You can browse by category, or you can search our mobile businesses and find businesses throughout the country, or businesses that might not necessarily have a permanent address, but you want to get out and support them, like food trucks, caterers, people with online clothing stores. And BlackDollar is here to help people support Black businesses, but further than that is to work towards economic liberation for the Black community. You can find resources on there to help you with your personal or business finance. And you can just stick around on our social media, following us on at BlackDollar LLC on Instagram, where we're encouraging the people and giving them tips on how to elevate our Black financial status. So,
okay. My man who super chatted me to $20, I'm going to make sure I read what he wrote. He said, that's the point. They know that tab is too heavy. It would alter the status quo. They know it. This is the reason for the persistent and pushback against reparations. Check this out, everybody. I did a video. I may have to send a video to you where I broke down the actual numbers. They could actually give us reparations and it would not bankrupt America, because they give out more money in foreign aid to other countries, which is our tax dollars. They give out more money into the military than what it would take to pay Black people an annual. Now I'm going with an annual because the data that I looked at talks about it. There's different plans that they could use to actually pay reparations. Now you have the issue of land. You have the issue of whether Black people should be paying taxes. Do you exempt us from taxes? Do you exempt us from military service? A whole combination of things that could be done. They don't do it because they don't have the political will to do it, because I have to be honest with you, Black people, there's not really a motivation to do that for us for whatever reason. Now you can call it white supremacy, you can call it all these different things, but we live in a country where we have not been appreciated for what our ancestors have done and what we are doing currently right now. It's just a fact. And this is the world that we live in. This is what America was built off of. Doesn't mean that we give up on it. We stay steady on the task. So I want to stay right there. Back to the basics. She super chatted me as well. I want to say appreciate you too, sister. Back to the basics. She's a great supporter of mine. We got Tanya that's in the house. Thank you all for being here. So with that said, Sister Olivia Robinson, we're going to do it again. I've got your email. I'll be in contact with you. Eventually, I want to get you on my traditional podcast. I know you're on Haps like me, so you'll see me over there on Haps as well. I'll be checking you out over there as well whenever you go on, or if you're a guest on somebody's program. And I'll be in contact with you so that we can do the podcast, the traditional podcast, and then get you back over here so that we can get into some more questions and things of that nature. Let me ask you this. Have you considered, and maybe you already have done this or you are doing this, have you considered creating specifically a YouTube channel that you can specifically upload content promoting the BlackDollar app?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I think it's it's on that grand to-do list I have of many things I want to do with BlackDollar. I'm still thinking of what that would consist of, if it would be just economic talk or bringing guests on. I'm not sure what it would look like yet, but it's definitely an idea.
I think you should do it because you got something that's very special here. I know personally when I go live, when I do my content, I am going to shout out BlackDollar app in my content and let people know to check the app out and to support it wholeheartedly and drop your name on people to know who you are. I know that's what I'm going to do because I'm definitely 100% down with what you've been doing. And what I'm most looking forward to is to see where your career, your life goes from here. Because if you mind me asking, I know they say you shouldn't ask a woman her age. Are you 22 or 23?
I just turned 23.
God damn, you're 23 years old and you're doing this already. My God. You're 23 now doing what you're doing. Just imagine where you're going to be at 33, 44. Your journey is going to be amazing. I'm just glad that I could be interviewing you right now because I think someday, I'm 51 years old now, someday when I get much, much older, I'm going to be an old dude talking about, I interviewed her. No, you didn't. Stop lying. You ain't interviewed that girl. I'm telling you I did before she became real big. No, but a little bit of Black to America barbershop scene there. Mm-hmm. But no. I really think that there's going to be big things for you. That's why I brought up the issue about staying grounded, because if you're only 23 years old now and you're thinking like this now and you're doing what you're doing, I can only imagine what type of a power broker you're going to be going down the line and the people that you've been influenced by. So I'm looking forward to being able to say exactly that. I knew her when, or I interviewed her when, and look at what she's doing now. That's what I see. That's what I see. So I thank you. No, I thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I genuinely appreciate it. Lord knows where I'll end up, but the work doesn't stop. So
the work doesn't stop, but I think you're going to end up pushing the envelope of doing bigger and even bigger and better things. I believe that. I can see the energy in you, and I believe that. So with that said, thank you for coming over, Olivia Robinson. I'll see you soon. I want to thank everybody for coming over. Before everybody goes, I got a few words I want to say to everybody because I gotta play my super chat music and the whole 9 yards before everybody goes in the chat room and those that are listening, and share the video. The video will pick up its views as it goes along this week. But Olivia, you take care of yourself, sister. Okay.
Will do. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here.
I appreciate you too. Thank you for taking the time with me today. Peace to you.
Peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there she is. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an incredible interview. I appreciate everybody coming over. Those who did come over. Take this out of here. Hang on, folks. All right. Hang on, folks. Put this up here. Boom. All right.
Information is power.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming over. Like I said earlier before, this is very important. This sister has an app that is beneficial to us as a community, wherever you are in this country. I really, it does bother me when you're putting together a quality program and a lot of our people don't support it like they should. Now, people are busy. It's a weekend. It's a Sunday. I get it. But we often talk about supporting the best of us, supporting what young people are doing. She's 23 years old. She's dynamic. Do your best to go over and download the app and check it out for yourself. Do your best to share this video in your social media. I thank those that did come over and watch the program and those that were in the chat room. I really appreciate you being here today. And the video will pick up more views after the fact because, there's probably a lot going on for people today. But I just think that she was dynamic, as I said before, well-spoken. Anybody that wipes her up is going to be a lucky man. Whoever the guy who is going to wife her up someday or that is in her life, he best to be having his self together, because you've got a dynamic woman or a potential of a dynamic young lady in your life. And you can build a strong Black family on that. And that's a fact.
Tell the truth.
Let me go ahead and look into the chat room. I'm going to play the music for those who super chatted me today. And I want to thank you for the super chat, and thank you. Let's share the video, right? Those of you who super chatted me,
thank you for the super chat.
I thank you for the super chat, but I'm going to give you what you want. Here comes the super chat music, and here we go.
Tell them run it up. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, I'm down that check. No drip, just wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down that check. No drip, just wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it up. 9 out of 10, rub through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. Thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me.
All right.
I'm number one up on that court, I'm Nick McGrady. The first one.
All right. Thank you for being here. I thank you again. Those of you who super chatted me, I really appreciate that. If I said names incorrectly, I apologize for that. I was having during the interview with her, I was having some problems with my first computer here. It was freezing on me. So I'm sitting up here interviewing her at the same time, trying to do some technical stuff. Streaming can be very difficult, folks, when you're interviewing and asking questions, and you got some technical things going on that you got to fix. It can be very difficult, and it's a task at times. Let me see. Tanya saying back-to-back basics. Let me see here. And everybody, Kendrick, thank you, man, for coming over and blessing my channel. He said, hey, I follow you on Instagram. Okay, so, hey, Kendrick, are you so I guess you're following her on Instagram right now. This is great. This is great. This is great. Yeah, go over to her Instagram. And once again, let me drop something in the chat room. This is her website, and you can find everything that has to do with her as well as the BlackDollar app. Let me put that in the chat room real quick. And there you have it. So check that out. You can click into that. Hopefully, did I put that in there? Is that in there right? Let me see. Is that in there correct like it should be? And let me double check this. And oh yeah, it's in there, folks. So you can click that link. That will get you right into her website, where you can follow everything that she's doing on her end. And you can also go into the apps, the shopping store, the websites, all this, everything that has to do with her business and her background. And she's fantastic. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to get ready to get out of here. Go ahead and share the video. Do I believe there should have been more people watching this video today when I was on live? Yes, I do. For the reasons that I think it was quality, it was great information, and it was the various thing that we often talk about, which is Black business. Business is being very important. And this is an app that gives you the ability to support Black business. And it also gives you the ability, where you live at, to identify Black businesses that maybe you have not identified yet. I think that's very important. So share this in all your social media again. I thank you all. I'm going to get on out of here, and we're going to make it do what we make it do. I'll be back with more. Oh, before I leave, I must do this. If you can, look at another video that you have not seen yet, and I'll give you some examples. So, for example, if you didn't see my other interview that I did with the African Esquire, definitely check that out, okay? If you hadn't seen the interview that I did with the Radical Sister, definitely check that out too. And if you haven't seen my latest video prior to this video with Raw B Privilege, the butterfly, check that out as well. And definitely, if you just came in late and you didn't get a chance to see most of what the sister was talking about, go back and look at the replay of the video. This is an example of the app that she has created right there on the screen, as you can see. I hope you would go ahead and do that. And let me see who's in the chat room again. And we got Back to the Basics is putting in links. We got my man Earl Owen. We got Earl Owens, another great information session. Thank you, Earl Owens. You once again have blessed me with consistent participation, consistent support. I love you for that. Love you all that are consistent at supporting the program. Tanya, thank you. All of you. By the way, check out the second channel, the Information Man Speaks podcast. I'm going to be dropping some stuff about Tamika Rice, the mother of Tamira Rice. I think she was 100% right to call out Black Lives Matter and call out anybody who's making money off of her son's death or any of the other Black folks that lost their kids. You even have Michael Brown's father who came out and said, we're not getting a dime. We've got Black Lives Matter chapters in this country that are saying we haven't saw any money for our support of our chapters. Yet they can get on the Grammys and sing songs and bring in rappers who got their damn pants below their waist like they got a bowel movement rapping songs. No. Take the money, the $90 million, whatever the hell that they have, and support these families. She is correct to come out and do the criticism that she has done. Anybody that criticizes her for that need to put their head in some sand. I'm going to do a podcast on the other channel. Maybe I'll drop it tonight. Maybe I'll drop it tomorrow morning, whenever. But I'm going to go in on that issue myself on my podcast. And I'm supposed to do a podcast with Back to the Basics around this whole issue of the vaccines. I think right now they're talking about whether our kids can take the vaccine. They're now telling us that when our kids go to school, they don't no longer need to be 6 feet apart. They can be 3 feet apart. So there's a lot of issues to unpack, ladies and gentlemen. But I am going to go in on the issue of Tamira Rice, the young man who was taken out of here by the police, what she had to say, because she said she's fed up with the effery of what she sees as the hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter, which has made its money off of the lives of Black men. And while they've made their money off of the lives of Black men in notoriety, they are creating other narratives where they've brought other groups of people in that are pushing narratives that have nothing to do with what has happened to Black men in this country. How about a bill, Biden? How about an executive order to infuse something for Black people who have been suffering from hate crimes as well?
Tell the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to take care of yourself. Peace to you. Love you all.
Information is power.
Peace.
Living for weekends, wishing I could take a break from this world. Running on a hamster wheel, but searching for something I can't feel. I just wanna be a lost girl and fly Take a breath, feel my wings spread, levitate above the ground, and make eye contact with clouds. Now I'm rising, I'm soaring above it all. I just wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. I wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. Finally. I always daydreaming, never imagine I lose my spark. Living in this crazy time, putting back the pieces of my mind. I know how to run from the dark and fly. Feel my wings spread, levitate into the clouds. I'm so high above the ground. I'm rising, I'm soaring above it all. I just wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. I wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free. Finally. Higher to a bird. You, I'm rising, I'm soaring above it all. I just wanna be free. I wanna be free. I wanna be free. I wanna be free.
Tell the truth.
Finally.
Tell the truth. 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 Tell the truth.
To face unless you absolutely love what you're fighting for. Love is what drives the commitment. And what would be the purpose of committing to your cause if love is not present? But beyond this, to love your cause is a direct act of resistance because the goal of your enemy is to prove that your cause is not worthy. To continue to love your cause, even as your oppressor attempts to demonstrate that your cause is not worthy of attention, of time, of effort,